What's up, guys? This video is about rebuilding the rear driveline on my 2017 Foreman 500 electric shift. This will work for all 2014 and newer Foremans or Rancher 420s. Basically all the new body style solid axle machines. A couple things I didn't put in the video that I should have put. I decided to try to double seal the left-hand side of the tube. Every one of these I work on, that seal's shot, the bearing's shot, the axle's kind of flopping around inside the left-hand side of the tube. So I'm going to try to put two of these 7mm seals on top of each other. From the factory, it has a 10mm seal. So I think there's enough room on the, enough extra space there to stick another seal in there and maybe help it be waterproof longer. I also ordered this Pioneer 12mm wide seal, right? The last number is how wide it is. I might try that too, but anyway, that's the size, 42 by 58 by 7. And also, I'm going to replace that left hub because it was tore up, and I found this Caltric one for 35 bucks, and it's a part that never really fails, so I'm okay going aftermarket with it. But that's your sealing surface right there, and that's your bearing surface. So I'm hoping you'll be able to get two 7mm seals touching here. Hopefully it'll last longer. This isn't a very good design. A lot of weeds and stuff get pulled into here and destroy the seal, and Honda hasn't done anything to fix it ever. It's always been problematic. So I'm going to try to double seal it. But yeah, this video's got a bunch of tips and tricks for you. Trying to answer questions I get a lot. The aftermarket diff I got didn't really work out, by the way. It was kind of annoying. I had to run spacers, but it's cheap. Probably won't do it again. It didn't seem super high quality, and it wasn't made quite right, as you will see. What's up, guys? I'm removing and rebuilding the entire rear drive assembly on my new Foreman. The reason for that is this seal over here was toast, and so was the bearing. So it was letting a lot of water get into the tube, into the splines. And instead of trying to rebuild this differential, I just bought a $125 Amazon one. They're on eBay too. People say they're fine. One thing I just noticed that's kind of fucked is this is the left side hub. So you can see it's totally smoked. That's the inside of the bearing stuck on there. And this sealing surface is really screwed up, so it's not going to seal very well. So I'm going to buy a new hub. That way I can have a good seal across my whole axle, because that right there is toast. Pro tip though, when you're trying to get this rear end apart, you probably wondered, like, why did Honda sandwich it like this? It's really hard to get the tube off. All you gotta do is turn the tube 90 degrees, like that, and it'll slide right out. Ta-da! So that's the trick. You gotta twist it 90 degrees, then pull it out. Then you can get to everything else. But yeah, pretty nasty in here. I don't know how the brakes were still sealed, because all of this was very much not sealed, to the point where I didn't want to risk rebuilding it. So I'll save this as a spare, but now that you got that out, you got plenty of room to get the chunk out. Also, these rings come off all the time, which is kind of annoying. They are nice, they help the seal last longer, so I'll probably tack weld it back in place. But yeah, this is going to get all jammed up. The most important thing to do is grease everything, and there are O-rings in all these places, but I also put a little bit of ultra gray just for double sealant. Alright, so getting the bearing out of the left side tube, the end bearing is always fun, especially when it's as bad as this was. You can see the axle is actually starting to rub where the seal seat is. So to get that out, you just take your welder, your $100 Amazon Yes welder, and you weld two beads across from each other, one there and one there, and we're even exactly across from each other. Once that cools, it'll actually shrink it, and I just took it, ow, it's hot, tapped it like that, and the bearing fell right out. That is what victory looks like. Now we're going to press in our new Honda bearing, which is only like $3, by the way. Very cool. Press the bearing in. Once we get it installed, we'll put the seal in after the bearing, and put some ultra black or ultra gray around there to help the seal, because the tube's a little tore up, so you want your seal to make a good seal on the outside as well. Pro tip, put a nice little bead in a couple spots on this seal guard piece. That'll go a long way with the photo focus to keep it from moving around. It's a press fit from the factory. Once it gets hit by a few sticks, it likes to move around, and that really does help protect the seal. So I'm putting a new shaft because they're very cheap. I had this one laying around. It doesn't really have very bad marks on it. So new shaft, new seals, new O-rings, should be very watertight. All right, so pretty poor fitment on this side too. That is how far the bolt wants to go in. That is pretty pathetic. just so I can show you visually. That's all it wants to do right there. So as you can see, I've got some spacers on these. This side's gonna look the same way, but even bigger, goofier spacers. So I would not recommend these aftermarket diffs based off of that alone. Maybe some of them have that issue fixed. That's the problem with a lot of these aftermarket products, is there's no real part number on them, so you don't know what generation you're getting or what issues it's still going to have. So you're just better off going OEM. All right, there's the finished product. So we got a new seal and bearing here, a whole new chunk here, new O-rings, new seals and bearings in there. Yes, this video is not super detailed. The longer videos don't get any views, and they take me too long to make, so this is what you get. I just tell you the important stuff. Now again, I had to run spacers here and here. It's very annoying. Junk. When you're done, don't forget to fill it up with gear oil, by the way. I like to use a cheap 85 140 or 90 140, and I change it frequently. That way, if there's a leak that develops, I can catch it as soon as possible. Make sure your spring is here in the back of your drive shaft. And as you can see, there's ultra gray squirting out of all of my seams. That's what you want to see, because not only did I rely on the O-rings, I also put ultra gray everywhere. So this thing should be 100% watertight. This already was watertight. This was leaking quite badly. Now, one pro tip, when you're building this together, this hub will usually have a gap, and you have to tighten these bolts down pretty tight to close the gap. And let me tell you why. Honda uses a floating bearing over here. There's no snap ring. The bearing is held in place by the hub. The hub is placed when you tighten this down. So as you tighten this down, you actually shove the axle shaft that way, and this bearing gets pushed out a little bit. If you read the manual, that's all pretty normal. But make sure you don't have a gap here when you're done. If you do, you need to figure out what's going on. You probably just need to torque these four some more. But yeah, that's about it for tips and tricks for this. Now it's time to do the front. So the back is all sealed. I got the motor sealed. It's got new output shafts and the gear reduction, of course. And now I got to work on this front diff, because some knucklehead tried to rebuild it, didn't put the actuator in right, and now it's just been leaking and it's full of water. So it's going to be a whole bunch of work to get that sorted. But I've done these a time or two and I'm not scared. But yeah, it's coming along. Should be ready to rip in a couple days.